Hospital porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. And you can't see my hand when I'm using this. StreamYard background. Yeah, but I did say the usual thing with my fist in the air like that. Yes, it almost came through. Yeah, and my background is, as you can see, the extraterrestrial highway, because we are actually going to go into the depths of Area 51. Well, not personally, but we're going to experience something weird connected with that secret base. The extraterrestrial highway, of course, is Highway 375 in Nevada. And these signs, there's several of them, they're covered with stickers. And every so often, have to scrape them off. But there was a Mindset podcast sticker on there because Gareth went there and put one on there, I remember. That's quite something, wasn't it? So, yeah, we're going to talk about this area because we're going to come back to the alien interview. Now, there is actually a link in the description box to a video I made in 2019 going into details of this particular subject. But I'm going to come back to it because there are a couple of updates. Firstly, we didn't really study the video itself during that particular production. I didn't actually show you the video we were talking about. I don't think, if I remember correctly. Anyway, you can check. I've had a quick look through it and I couldn't find it. But just go to the link in the description box. You will watch that and get a full introduction to this subject. Also, another thing was that I got an interview with one of the researchers into this particular enigma, a guy called Jon Stewart. And he has come up with some important updates in the last couple of years. So no doubt you'll find that very, very interesting indeed. If you like this channel, I think you will like this particular interview. Jon Stewart, I've interviewed him a couple of times on the Hopanwo show on Hopanwo Radio. Very interesting chap. He's been looking into this, doing an investigative journalist deep dive into this, and to see how far he can get and see what he can come up with. And wow, it's quite remarkable stuff. Whether it's going to solve all the mysteries, I don't know, but it'll hopefully solve some of them. Now, aliens, videos of aliens. There are a lot of them online. Most of them are obvious fakes. And that's the problem, is it? It's because there are so many fakes that if any real ones appear, what will we do? I mean, it's like they can't be buried in all the noise. I mean, anyone, for example, I talk about my I compose an imaginary story, which I tell you in the background video, about someone from inside Area 51 who sneaks a video of an alien out of the base and then puts it up online. And of course, what's the response? Oh, fake. Another fake as Jordan's tits, mate. Students make them, Yeah, so that's the problem. We have a terrible signal-to-noise ratio. The character in my little short story, which I read out in the background video, is essentially the ultimate little boy who cried wolf. And that's sad. I mean, it's sad that we're in that situation, but it is inevitable because, of course, it's so easy to produce realistic fakes nowadays with technology. But even before that technology was available, there were fake images. There were some real ones too. This is why when it comes to photographic evidence, I'm primarily interested in anything that happened before about 2000. So, for example, the photograph that Stephen Greer showed in his Cosmic Hoax video, that was allegedly taken in the 1920s. I think there's something to that. The reason I think there's something to that is simply it's antiquity. If it exists and it's not just a fabrication, apparently it's not, from what I've heard. Of course, if something like that came out today, well, you could say, well, it could be a deep fake, AI art, anything like that. And in this day and age, you might be right. That's the problem. You might be right. But as I say, even before modern photo imaging technology was available, people were trying to fabricate all kinds of things. Ghosts, Loch Ness Monster. The first Loch Ness Monster fake was done, I think, in 1930. The surgeon's photo, it's actually just a model. And ghosts, yeah, Bigfoot, a lot. There's always been a market for this sort of thing ever since photography was invented. And the fact that technology to create fakes so good that really photographic evidence does not carry any weight really anymore, or much less than it used to. The fact that that didn't exist some time ago has done nothing to prevent people from trying. Now, when it comes to aliens, one of the most infamous of these videos is the alien autopsy. This was brought out by Ray Santilli and Gary Shoefield. I'm sure you're familiar with the story. People like Philip Mantle and other ufologists started investigating it, and it didn't take long, for the secrets to fall from the tree. Once Philip and the others started shaking, they were introduced to several other people who were associated with this production, and it became pretty clear. Eventually, in 2006. They made Santilli and Shoefield made a full confession. It got more complicated though, because the magician got involved. You know, the guy I'm talking about. He got involved. I've interviewed him too, and to these days, I mean, really, it's been exposed. It appears to have been exposed as a hoax. Now, there is a tiny bit of doubt left, and I know Colin Woolford, he's a wonderful space brother, friend, and comrade of mine. He is convinced that this was real, and that all the effort to debunk that, and including the confessions, things like that, that was all disinformation. I can't rule that out. I mean, I personally don't believe that, but I've not completely shut the door on that. I really haven't. However, there was the fact that there was so much publicity surrounding the alien autopsy when it came out in 1995. There's documentaries made through the mid-90s about it. There was the one with Jonathan Frakes, Riker from Star Trek. There's been a number of them. There was one with Eamon Holmes. You remember him? This became a major cultural phenomenon for a short time, which may be one of the reasons why what happened next. This could explain perhaps what happened next. As I go into this detail with Jon Stewart, who you'll be seeing shortly, the alien autopsy was not the only video of its kind. It received so much publicity, it essentially drowned out any attention that could be paid to the others. There are others around, and I'm amazed to see that a lot of ufologists are not even aware of their existence. They're not even aware of their existence. So, I mean, and a few that don't really pay much attention to them. Many denounce them as fakes. Now, several. I mean, I have covered one of these before. That is the Russian Roswell. Now, I did a video about that. I'll show you here, and I'll just show it to you. The Russian Roswell, fact or fake? I do recommend this. It leaded to a very, very. Is there an update? Yes, there's another one. Yes, there is an update. Yes, Russian Roswell. A reply to Steve mumbling, because yes, the mumbler did actually throw down the gauntlet, and I had to do a big debate with him about it. But you can see this is the crash there. You see, this is a picture I've got in a little inset there with the mumbler in the main side, and here you can see this is the actual autopsy scene from a hospital somewhere. Now, despite what mumbling says, I think this one is authentic. Despite a lot of people claim it's fake. There was a documentary made about it. Roger Moore, the James Bond. This was in the mid-90s. It was just like shortly after the alien autopsy came out. This came out. This documentary came out with Roger Moore, James Bond guy, narrating it and hosting it. But that was not the only one. Again, there were more. There have been several. And one of the most interesting ones is the one we're going to discuss today. The Area 51 alien interview. This is not to be confused with another one called the Alien Interview, which is about a nurse who had telepathic contact with the alien at Roswell. Excuse me. That's totally different. Now, what happened was a man walked into a small production company called Rocket Pictures, and he just said, "I've got a videotape I want you to see." And this guy showed them the tape. He demanded to speak to one of the directors. He showed them this tape, and he asked, "Would you want to make a documentary about this? We can do an interview with me. You can show this particular tape, this video." And they said, "Okay." Now, the man who he said his name was Victor. That's not his real name. Jon Stewart is actually on the track of Victor right now. The real Victor said, "Okay," but Victor said, "I want to be shot in silhouette. So I don't want my face seen. He wore a disguise, false beard, a wig, things like that. And I want my voice to be distorted through a modulator. And he had his way. And the documentary was produced. I don't think there's any need for a copyright thing on this. I'll just show you a little bit of it now. Here we go. It's just this one here. Here we go. Right. Hope you can see that. You should be able to. Yes, you should. Yeah. That's Sean David Morton. I actually interviewed him too. You see, he looks quite young there because this was in the late 90s, shortly after. Because in 1996 that Victor approached Rocket Pictures. Let's make that a bit bigger for you. Here you go. Whoops. Let's make that a bit bigger.
It's a remarkable piece of footage. If it's a hoax, it's very well done. If it's not, then I would say it's probably revolutionary.
He's right. Now, he says if it's a hoax, it's very well done. Now, of course, it's not impossible that this is a hoax. I'll show you the full video in a minute, the full actual footage in a minute. It's not impossible that it's a hoax, but in my view, it's unlikely. And the reason I think it's unlikely is because if you apply the same logic as you do to the alien autopsy film. So, for example, ufologists start investigating. They soon, ufologists have the curiosity and investigation proficiency of Chandler-esque detectives, and they very, 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 very quickly they can come to the bottom of things, despite what the skeptics say. Oh, you're all wide-eyed believers and all that sort of thing. It's not true. Most professional ufologists are very, very good at things, at getting to the bottom of things. Now, the thing is, when they applied this to the alien autopsy, the alien interview, the film I'm about to show you, the details that escaped from the alien autopsy did not escape from this. That is, people coming forward saying, "Yeah, I made it. I'm the model. I made the model and I got it to move," and things like that. And yeah, I did a good job on that. Cost a lot of money. I demanded like £100,000. I want that on my CV. That hasn't happened. If this was a hoax, then whoever is behind it has remained mute, silent, and mysterious and unknown. This is despite the fact that people who have the capability of making what I'm about to show you are part of quite a small select community in Hollywood and places like that. And it's almost unthinkable that someone wouldn't recognize them or even recognize the style, things like that. Yet it's never happened. And this film is now more than 25 years old. I did a 20th anniversary thing in 2016 about it as well. So I'll just scroll a little bit in this video. I'll show you Victor.
It's 38 levels.
Now there's several special effects artists were consulted in this. Now there are most ufologists really haven't got into this, and it received a fraction of the public attention that the alien autopsy did. I mean, possibly. I'm getting conspiratorial now, but it could be that the alien autopsy was given so much attention, it was streamlined to publicity because certain people knew that the videos like the Russian Roswell and the alien interview were floating around out there and might appear one day. They couldn't stop it happening. They didn't know where they were. These could hit the media any time. If you can't stop the leak, what do? Well, you as Andrew Johnson says, if you can't cover up, you muddle up. So they put the alien interview out there. They put it out. They gave it a huge amount of publicity, and its demolition and exposure as a fake was equally public. And the confession in 2006 of Schofield and Santilli. So that whenever something else more interesting comes along, in my view, this is a far more impressive piece of evidence than the alien autopsy. But when things like this come about, the public, when they see them, go, students make them, not another one of those, not another fake alien video. We already had one of those. I thought it was real for a moment, and we found out it was fake, and I was really disappointed. I'm not even going to look at this. That's the idea. They stop you looking at it, you see. So let me just try and find Victor. I'll show you. See, there we go. This video gives a bit. I won't show you these bits. It gives you a bit of an introduction. There's Bob Lazar, David Adair.
Although it is preferable to maintain the physical well-being of any entity.
The guy who hosts it is, as I said, I'm not. This is fair use. If anyone's wondering, I'm going to claim fair use on this. Is Stephen Williams?
The loss of EBE life is considered
Where is he?
acceptable if conditions or
Do
delays
you recognise him? It's Mr. X from the
to
X-Files.
preserve that life in any way compromise the security of the operations.
Yeah, he's a good person
From
to
the
present it.
beginning of the U.S.
Yeah, that's perfect. X-Files, Mr. X. Yeah. So we'll just go on a bit further.
UFO agents.
Real ounce of, but all is
Occupation.
Here we go.
is he a hoaxer?
Aspects. He just
Now this is here we go. This is the director here who interviews him.
did not want his face and his real name revealed.
At Coleman's
This is him.
insistence,
This is there we go. This is Victor, the witness, the guy who produced the videotape.
Victor agreed reluctantly to
This
What is
him.
your occupation at Area 51?
I won't answer that. I have had reason to be present at Area 51, but I'm not going to clarify whether or not I was there as an employee.
You can hear they've distorted his voice.
You saying you were there as a visitor?
I'm not going to specify why or in what capacity I was there, only that I was there.
Can you tell us how many times you were there?
When I agreed to this, my fundamental ground rule was that I would not be asked to divulge personal data that might help pinpoint.
This is typical of his attitude. He's very sullen. He's very uncooperative. He walks out at one point when they try to ask him too many questions. He gives them a list of bullet points, and occasionally the interviewer deviates from the questions on the script, and Victor walks out. They did pay Victor as well. I mean, of course, the skeptics are going to love that, aren't they? They did pay Victor a substantial amount of money for this, but as he explains, this is necessary to protect myself, and that's understandable. That's fair enough. And there's an awful lot of. I think this is not getting the attention it deserves. I really do. I'll show you the video in a minute, the actual alien interview video in a minute. But there are a few people who are looking into this, I think, and I think hopefully more will now because I've made the video in 2019 and made this. There's one. I think the primary specialist who's leading the investigation into this particular video is a guy called Andrew Burlington. Now he's a ufologist from here in England, and I know him actually. I've met him. And he's really leading the charge on this. But there are many others like who are also doing so right now. More now, I think, than there were before. I mean, Jon Stewart he's doing many interviews now, so hopefully he'll get more interest in this particular video. By the way, like I said, if you want to listen to the full story of the background to this particular phenomenon, I'm not going to repeat it here. But you can go back to the link in the description box and watch the alien interview video I made in 2019. Okay, let's just find the actual video.
The sole control.
Here we go.
on the credibility of the tape.
Brought.
Right.
As I said, this is late in the series. In fact, it's quite close to the end.
And let's go back slightly.
Patrol officers say good dog when he comes to put some poor stray to sleep. Doesn't the vet try to reassure the animal just before he spays it?
If you want to watch this, by the way, Area 51, the Alien Interview full documentary, there are several versions online on YouTube and on Alt-Tech, so it's not hard to find. But do put in Area 51 as well, just otherwise you'll get that Alien Interview telepathic communication thing, which is not as good.
When you're dealing with beings whose intellect is so far beyond your own, I don't think it's safe to assume they have your best interests at heart.
What about the content of the tape segment you brought?
As I said, this is late in the series. In fact, it's quite close to the end.
Yeah, I suspect, based on the timing, and he claims this was made. I mean, there's several. I know John and several other people have questioned this, that this might have been made sometime around about 1989, 1990. What you're about to see, which would actually put it very close to the Kalahari UFO crash. Now, the Kalahari UFO crash is a very interesting case that took place in 1989. Basically, there was a Roswell-style incident just in Namibia, in southern Africa, just over the border from South Africa. The South African Air Force dealt with it. Now, the only reason we know about this is because Tony Dodd Bless him. The much lamented and late Tony Dodd, the ufologist, he wrote a book called Alien Hunter, and he describes how he basically blagged his way. He blagged his way into the South African Ministry of Defence on the phone. It's an incredible story if that's true. Anyway, let me just I'll just show you it again. Here we go. Right now,
Because of his unwillingness to reveal his own identity, Victor's story stands or falls on the credibility of the tape he supplied. Here, exclusively for the first time anywhere, is the uncut, uninterrupted alien interview tape, shown in its entirety in real time.
now I should point. I'm going to show you this now. Now I'm going to put the sound down like that. Now what happens is the video is actually mute. Victor has removed the soundtrack because he believes that if anyone heard voices and things and other noises in the background, it might identify some of the people there. Now, several people, including Burlington, claim they have identified some of the people there, and I'll let him tell that story when he's ready to. But he has sort of confided in me a few things. So one of the people is a very senior figure in the American military political establishment. I don't know if that's true, but we may find out one day. Now, because this is mute, the makers of this program put some background music on, some ambient music in the background to create atmosphere. I've muted that. I don't particularly want to hear that because it's actually far more effective, I believe, just to watch the video as Victor intended with no soundtrack at all. I'll pause it at certain points and make some commentary. All right, but here we go. Okay, what we see here is this creature here. There's this being. It appears to have terracotta-colored skin. As you can see, there are some ridges on its skull. It seems to be a grey-type being. The ridges on the skull is very interesting because that comes up in the Kalahari crash report. There's these lights. These lights are windows behind. You can't really tell what they are. This is all dark. And apparently, it's kept dark because the aliens can't stand bright light, and they have big black eyes. The big eyes might indicate that in their natural habitat, it's actually quite dark. You have this table here in front. There's this kind of some object here I can't quite identify. There's a coat hanger-like structure here. Now, this thing here with the blipping light on, the moving light, is very interesting because it looks like some kind of electronic device. It's not one that I recognize, but some people, John is going to talk about how he's investigated this. He believes it might be a medical monitor, but of a very unusual kind, one that is not available in the NHS, shall we say. And what they're basically doing here is there's some people, you can just make out their shadows here in the foreground, who are trying to interview it and get it to communicate telepathically. And they do this regularly with these creatures at Area 51. This here, DNI 2704-02209. Now, John has his own idea about what the 27 means, which might well be true. DNI stands apparently for Department of Naval Intelligence, and Victor reveals that. Thing is, there's no such thing as the Department of Naval Intelligence in the open US establishment. There is an Office of Naval Intelligence, but not a Department of Naval Intelligence. So if whatever it is, if the Department of Naval Intelligence exists, it's a very secretive part of the secret state, basically. This here, we have a timestamp here, 040822. Now, this could be time elapsed or it could be time of the day. We don't know, but that's just a time. There's a timer there. We'll continue. You see this bleeping thing here. It looks like it's monitoring the creature's heart, if indeed it has a heart. You just like how you could just make out in the foreground people are moving. It looks like it's a kind of chair there or some structure there. I don't quite work out what that is. Now, if this was a puppet, and it could be, it would need to have some kind of, it's moving. So it's a lot more sophisticated than the alien autopsy, which was just the thing that lay there. It was made by John Humphreys, the sculpture, who ironically also made the one for the Ant and Dec movie. They didn't know that at the time. This is moving. It's a moving mannequin. It's not just one lying still and filled with guts. To make a puppet move, usually use It's usually like they have it's usually like a glove puppet, so it has a place where you can put your hand inside and move it like that. An operator, a puppeteer will do that, or it's a marionette. It has very thin strings which don't show up on film, which dangle from above, and there's an operator above with holding the strings. Now, it's not a marionette, and you'll be able to see very clearly in a minute it's not a marionette. But it's also not a glove puppet, because several people have enhanced this image, and so you can see more of the background. And if it was a glove puppet, you'd be able to see the guy probably dressed in black sitting behind the alien. You don't see, with his hand inside the alien's head. You don't see that. You see, there's that. See, I'm not sure this. This electronic device. I've never seen anything like that before. But it looks to me, that looks like an ECG. If the creature has a heart, it may be monitoring the creature's heartbeat. According to Burlington, the creature's eyes narrow and move slightly. You get actual movement in the creature's eyes. You do see actually the eyelid comes down slightly there. Very. You see people moving around there in the foreground. I was going to say this is fair use, but I mean, I'm not exactly sure who I say it's fair use. I mean, fair use related to. I mean, who is the intellect? Who is of whom is this the intellectual property? Do I have to say to some scientist, Area 51 on a secret project, I'm using your video, mate. Fair use, mate. Don't sue me. It's starting to move. You see that it's starting to jerk its head a little bit. It opens its mouth. You see it opening its mouth there. It's not a very good quality image. I mean, I could expand it a little bit, but actually it just becomes more distorted if I expand it. There are better quality versions of this online. I couldn't find any, but there are a few I have seen over the years. And Andrew Burlington, if you go to Victor Nevada on YouTube, he has some of the top quality images of this. It looks like, to me, if that was human, I'd say it was coughing. It's looking very distressed there, see? It's opening its mouth. It's almost like it's jerking its head backwards and forwards. You see it open its mouth. If this is a puppet, you'd need someone who could basically, as one of the people said who were interviewed in this documentary, this person could get a job in Hollywood any day. Indeed, maybe they do. And indeed, if that's the case, then why don't they confess? Have they never said anything at a pool party? Wouldn't you want to, if you made something like this, wouldn't you want to boast about it? Wouldn't you want this on your CV? His mouth is wide open now, you see. Okay, it's like it's people getting up in the foreground, you see. I think they're concerned about the welfare of the alien. Oh, poor Robert Dean was just like moved to tears over this. Robert Dean is a lovely, very empathic individual. He was before he died, and he was absolutely weeping over this. And here come the doctors. As you can see, they've got their coof masks on and rubber gloves. This is standard surgical scrub gear. And they're actually looking for hemorrhaging around the creature's eyes rather at the moment, because apparently it often loses blood around its eyelids. But you can see quite clearly by the way they're moving that this is not a marionette. Otherwise, their bodies would get in the way of the strings. According to Victor, they were late. They see it's open its mouth wide. According to Victor, they were late arriving. These doctors, they weren't very. Apparently, they're chosen more for their ability to keep secrets than their medical expertise.
Over to this program.
That's correct. I can't allow the voices of the project personnel to be heard by the general public. There's a very good chance their family or friends on the outside might recognize them.
Isn't your purpose in releasing this tape to expose Area 51 to the world?
My purpose is to expose the existence of the aliens, not compromise these.
But that's kind of all. That's kind of all I need to show you, really. So, with that being said, let's move on to my interview with Jon Stewart. I think you'll find it very interesting indeed. How are you? You all right?
I'm doing great.
That's
really
great. We're not recording. This is not. We are recording. This is not live. I'm just recording. I've got the backup recorder going, so no one's listening to us right now, except of course the NSA, as they always do. But it's good to talk to you again. It took us a while to go live. We're here. Yeah. I'm good to get back on get you back on the show because this is there's been a lot of developments since we last had Jon Stewart with us. When was it I last spoke to you? Actually, it was
it was at my summer home in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe.
It was July 2021. That's
there
right.
You go. Yeah.
That's it on a program 426. That's it. So if I'm sure listeners may not remember this, but if you try looking for the alien interview Area 51 on Google, you'll find a lot of very interesting things. I just for an experiment, I'm familiar with it, but just to prepare, I googled it and I immediately got an Amazon pop up advertising a whole load of stuff.
You go on YouTube, put in 1997 Area 51 alien interview Victor. It's called The Forgotten Film because that's exactly what it's been. You know, it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it has been kind of forgotten in a way. I mean, it's not by everyone. I mean, obviously, people like us keep it, you know, and we've focused on it an awful lot, but it's not well known even in even I know people even in ufological circles who don't know much about it, which is remarkable because I think it deserves more attention. And there's this, and it's not to be confused with this other thing called the alien interview, which is something completely
ridiculous
different.
CGI. Yes.
Yeah, that's a.
Yeah. When you
wait
a minute, are we recording right now?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's
that's funny you brought that up. When you look at the CGI videos or films out there of aliens, and then you go to the Victor 97 film, it's like this is like somebody took a VHS camera and, you know, and this is a room. I mean, the contrast is so startling that there isn't anyone that says, wow, something's wrong with this film. Meaning, you know, this is not CGI and this looks so unrehearsed and unproduced Hollywood style that that's the first thing that grabbed me when I first saw it in 97.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it on TV. I remember this was not long after the famous Alien Autopsy film.
Right.
Had stolen it. That was very famous. I remember.
Yeah.
And,
that film destroyed the credibility of this film. This is why this film, in my opinion, was just thrown off to the wayside. Well, the Alien Autopsy's hoax. Of course, this one's got to be hoax.
Maybe it was meant to, John. Maybe it was meant to. I mean, it's always. I do suspect that that the purpose of that film may have been to. I mean, I don't know that because Colin Woolford, my friend, he's convinced it's real. I don't think it's real, but. The guys who made it, maybe it was somehow or streamlined on its way to success because they knew this other film was out there.
Are you talking about? You don't think the interviews?
No, the Alien Autopsy. Pardon me, the autopsy I'm talking about now. Yeah,
okay.
Maybe that was because I don't think that's real. Colin Woolford, my good friend, he disagrees thoroughly with this, but maybe it was streamlined on its way to success because they knew there was this other thing, the Alien Interview, out there, and.
Yeah, it's possible, but you know, like with the Alien Autopsy, and I think it's important for people maybe just to understand my investigative brain. I watched the whole thing. I didn't say a word, and then at the end, I said, "That's interesting." You said 2 guys from London that didn't have a lot of money produced this documentary. Yes, they created the film, and they had no money. Yeah, they had very little money. Did they also rent a United States Army air base that looked like it was from the 40s and hire Jeeps and have 30 actors in period World War II era uniforms and have 5 dolls on stretchers in front of this big hangar? Did they do that too?
Yeah.
With no money?
Yeah,
And everyone says,
it's-
oh, well, I'm like, yes, that was part of the film. Did these blokes do this $60,000 production in front of a hangar the last 4 seconds of the film? And that's where I say something isn't right. I'm not saying the
Yeah.
film is real, but something is not copacetic with that whole production.
Absolutely not. It's an interesting in itself as a phenomenon. I don't think it's real, but as a phenomenon, it's very interesting. Now, but so when that sort of came and went, and there was this idea in people's heads because of that oh, it's something students make them. You know, there's loads of these fake ones out there, and students make them.
Right.
Then suddenly a loads more start coming out. A couple from Russia appeared, which are very interesting. But the most interesting by far was this one here. It's the Area 51, the Alien Interview documentary. Director Jeff Broadstreet, got Stephen Williams, he was the Mr. X. And do you remember X-Files? Right. He was the mysterious guy, keeps appearing and giving people messages. Right. And that was my jaw dropped when I saw that, John. I really did. It was like, blimey. As we explained when we were last on the show, you know, I immediately knew in my sense, I just sensed something was seriously. I could just almost sense something very important about this, and
exactly,
I really, really did. And of course, people say it's all unlike the alien autopsy. I mean, the investigators, people like Philip Mantle, have shaken the tree, and and eventually the facts started to fall around it. People shaking the alien autopsy tree they've not found any mysterious directors and film model makers or anything like that. This has remained mute, and it's remained mute, silent and mysterious for all these more than 20 years now. 25 years.
25 years. No one of any credibility has come forward to say, I did the accounting on that project. I hired the actors. I helped make the alien puppet. I provided the catering services. My friend, did the casting call for the actors. I provided the spray paint for the alien's head. I helped move the animatronic doll. In a world like Hollywood, where it's all bragging and self-patting on the back, you mean to tell me that in 25 years, we can't find one person at a pool party, at an award ceremony after party that said, you know, that alien interview, I did that. If you were one of the animatronic people that built that doll, which is still to this day incredible, because we have now in the past 4 months closed up so much that you see the alien's mouth going.
It does, yes.
Instantaneously. If you were a guy that did that in 1991 or 96, you would have told that to the world.
I'd want that. I'd want that on my CV, and I really would. And you know, as the guy said in the documentary, you know, anyone who did this could get a very high-paid job in Hollywood any day, and that, of course, is something to get that job. You'd want credit for that, for what you'd created. And as Andrew Burlington,
exactly. And I have never approached this as I want to prove it's real. I wanted to find out the truth of it. And if that meant I find the special effects person that created it, so be it. If that means I find who Victor was, so be it also. I was out to, and I think there is the foundation of my legitimacy as an investigator and as a journalist. And I say myself as a journalist because 2 articles of mine about my journey have now been edited and put forward on newspaper websites in the past month. So, you know, I wanted to be able to come on shows like this and say, folks, do what you want with my information, but here's my information. I vetted my sources 3 and 4 times back. And I was out to just looking for the truth. And that sometimes separates UFO or conspiracy researchers, the people that are trying to shove something in their direction, in their vision, or somebody that just goes, I just want to know the truth. And I just came at this as I just want to know the truth. So we don't need keyboard warriors after my interview with you saying, oh, this and that. And hey, do what you want with the information. I worked my ass off. I did it for 5 years. I've made some big mistakes. but I was honest and I was careful and I was polite and gentlemanly. And this is how I got people to come forward. I crisscrossed people's information and found out they matched from different decades and eras. And I was also and I've been given 3 or 4 absolute bombshells, which I will share on your program today, that makes you say, what is going on with the government and with this film?
Well, yeah, obviously, like if the government have some serious questions to answer if this is real, and for reasons we've explained and we explained in your initial interview in 2021, this is almost certainly something real. There's no indications to indicate it's anything other than a real film. I discussed this with Andrew Burlington, who I also know and I've spoken to privately. So when this is kind of, as you say, 25 whole years, but then you actually emailed me saying, the Victor story breaks wide open January the 15th. And it's just like, and there's this picture, you include a still of the alien being examined by doctors. So what have you discovered? What new bombshells are there in this particular story?
Me telling this story takes about 2 hours. So I have got to condense it because obviously you don't want to talk that long with me, but
well, I could do it an hour and a half or something if you need.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So from the last interview with you, where I finally got with Andrew Burlington, who said, "Look, there are so many anomalies with this film. You've got to see my research on Facebook," which I did, and there was other things that Andrew found out. Other things in the film that just didn't add up to it being a Hollywood production. Andrew found the aide to the left has a little handheld Sony cam monitor. Why would you do that if you were doing a Hollywood production? We've really tried to analyze the telepath supposedly on the left, and Andrew and I don't believe it's the telepath. And but then I had to go forward from Andrew's research because I knew this was not just finding anomalies on the video wouldn't satisfy the New York Times. It wouldn't satisfy, the UK Sun or or Netflix or Hulu or any, HBO or any streaming service or producers in Hollywood, because ultimately I had spent so much money and so much time that I said, well, I need to tell the world. The only way I can effectively tell the world is to produce some sort of documentary. And then a producer got a hold of me, and that's basically where we are now. So after the Burlington, all my research of looking at Andrew Burlington's information, I said to myself, I'm at a kind of a crossroads here. What do I do? Where do I go? And I first started analyzing the bizarre physiological monitor in the film. And it's a blip that goes up and down. It doesn't go horizontal.
Yeah,
totally bizarre.
Because we mentioned this last time. I've spoken to Andrew about this as well. I was a hospital porter for 23 years. I know what medical equipment looks like. This is clearly some kind of electronic device, and the blip makes me think it's monitoring some kind of heartbeat.
Correct.
If this creature has a heart, which maybe it doesn't,
Right.
But it doesn't look like any I'm familiar with.
So I talked to Jaime Busan, and who's the journalist in Mexico, that he took this film 25 years ago, to 13 cardiologists and heart surgeons. And he simply said, look, they all said to him, look, it looks like this creature, when it starts coughing, is having the same coughing attacks that is in sync with the blip going up and down, that he's having some sort of cardiac arrest, although with the type of heart and lung sac that this creature has, that the blip is coinciding with the creature's movements. And all of the surgeons said this. I find that hard to believe that somebody working some sort of laser or the blip can also be in sync with the puppeteer, where they could have it where it would fool 13 cardiologists that this being is having a fake heart attack. So that was really interesting. Yeah. So
it has a seizure. It sort of it starts jerking its head backwards and forwards. Of course, according to the skeptics, it's just a guy with a hand inside the head moving it like that, like a glove puppet. But of course, then you see, like you say, however this machine works, and we don't know what kind of anatomy this creature has. Does it have lungs like we do, or a heart like we do? Whatever it is, that monitor is clearly probably designed specifically for that species.
Well, that's funny you said that. Which leads me to, then I said, okay, I've got Andrew, I've got Jaime's research. That's not going to cut it. Not going to cut it. I have to go further, which I've been doing this mentality in every aspect of the video. And I found 3 PhDs that did the history of heart monitors. I contacted them. I fully feel the government stole my emails right before a Jeff Rense show in May of 2021. However, much to a couple of skeptics, they did not take my sent emails. So I found the sent email to these 3 PhD people that did the thesis on the physiological monitors, the complete history. All 3 of them, I wrote them. I sent them the video. We do not know what this is. We do not know that this has ever been manufactured. Wow. Okay. These are the historians. So then I call HP and Space Labs. These were the only 2 companies that made physiological monitors in the 90s. I talked to people in their physiological engineering department, very seasoned veteran engineers. Both men told me, I've never seen that. I've never saw the designs for that. That's not manufactured then, and it's not manufactured. This is 2019. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I've got physiological monitor experts that are telling me they have no idea what I'm looking at. The person at Hewlett Packard said, well, it sounds like a one-of. I said, well, what is a one-of? And he said, if you had a problem and you didn't have a device to help with your problem, a bulldozer to help you dig a hole, or a monitor or a tester to see if you're picking up gold in the ground, or, he said you would design what's called a one-of. And that's a device that you would design and build to simply help you figure out or monitor a problem you have in the scientific community or whatever. And I said, would you build a special monitor to monitor, would you build a special device, a one-of, to monitor a very bizarre alien heart? And he went, yeah, I would. He didn't laugh at me. And I covered the phone. I went, oh my God, I don't believe what's happening here. And that's when I fell down the rabbit hole of something is wrong. Let me go back to, on the bottom of this film is DNI 27, David November Igloo. I think I said this on the first interview. I was with John McCain, who was a United States Senator, and I won't go into the story because we don't have time. And I asked Senator McCain, what does DNI mean? And he snapped his neck and he turned to me, he goes, you don't ever need to know anything about that. And I went, wait a minute.
Strange.
I got a film that no one's come forward to debunk in 20 years. I got a United States Senator that just bit my head off over fake letters on a fake video, right? And I've got physiological monitor experts, aged experts telling me, we don't know what the hell that monitor is. And that's when I said, something is going on here.
Definitely.
And this is getting into the creepy zone, but something's going on with this video. And I don't know if I want to know it, but I'm going to take the deep dive and keep going.
Do you had first-hand experience like speaking to these experts? I mean, I sensed it. Andrew also had this sense that he just intuitively knew there was something into this. On the subject of companies like Hewlett Packard, I mean, they do contract work for the government. I mean, some of it is classified.
And Space Labs did the monitors for the NASA, the NASA program. So I was talking to the experts, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And these were like one-offs in a sense. Yeah. These were never mass-produced, which of course means they're very expensive. But of course, money's no object to these people.
Correct.
But they do classified contract work for the government, and they do have secret laboratories. And these are household names, but they do this sort of thing in the military-industrial complex, military-medical-industrial complex. Now, see that DNA, there is such a thing as an Office of Naval Intelligence, but according to Victor, that's a Department of Naval Intelligence, and supposedly there's no such thing.
Let's get to that too. So the Department of Navy Intelligence, if you were hoaxing a video, would you put it in an acronym that you can't find the department, you can't find the military organization? What kind of idiot would do that?
Well, if I was hoaxing it, I just wouldn't say anything. I mean, whoever was playing Victor, I'd just say, if they ask you what that DNI means, just don't tell them. And he says, no, he says it stands for Department of Naval Intelligence. Victor actually revealed this in his first interview.
That's correct. And if I was hoaxing it, I wouldn't have put it on. I would have put CIA or Area 51 or Papoose Lake or something. I would never put an agency that you can't look up. So I meet a naval aviator, and I had a great relationship with him. And finally I said, hey, Mike, what is the DNI, Department of Naval Intelligence? Is that real? Yes. Texas back. I'm like, wow. Okay. It was like, wait a minute. What? He goes, I know it's real because they tried to recruit me before I went into naval aviator school. This is a naval aviator, a professor, and a teacher. So is he got the credibility of a liar? I don't think so. I said, Mike, when you look this up, you can't find it. And this was a little bombshell. He's like, you're never going to find it because it's an agency. Listen to me, folks. It's an agency, not a department. He goes, so it's buried in the ONI. He said it's the CIA spook division of naval intelligence, of the Office of Naval Intelligence. So you'll never find it because it's an agency. It's buried in the ONI. Smart.
That's interesting.
So we found that out.
If they try to recruit, it must have been maybe when he was at whatever he went to his training camp. His academy.
They said they came to him right before he went to the naval aviator school in Pensacola, Florida.
It may be because he ticked, because they give you. I mean, I did basic training at the HMS Raleigh. I didn't actually serve in the Royal Navy, but I did basic training. You do have to fill out forms and things like that. And I remember speaking to a couple of people. I think they do. I mean, it was a long time ago, but I remember thinking to myself, these are odd questions. It could be they assess you psychologically to see if you're the right kind of person they can bring in. I mean, they do the same thing in like intelligence agencies and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is why spies often get caught and things like that. So, but he said he said no, I want to be an aviator. I don't want to do this. Did he say that? Right.
Yeah. So I do wrap up. So we've proof that an acronym DNI, and I'll get to the 27 because that is the bombshell of the bombshells. We proved the DNI is real. We got a United States Senator that tore my head off. We have surgeons, Jaime Maussan, and monitor specialists that say the monitor's never been produced, never been made. And I'm like, wow, this is. But I need more. I'm an investigator. Investigator just can't take one. I say that over and over again. Because you have to keep going. You have to deep dive on all your sources. So I went on the Jeff Rense show on Memorial Day. I'm going to make this clear. 2021. 2 days before I go on Jeff Rense, all of my read but not deleted emails on 4 different email accounts gets wiped off my phone. And I was having conversations with Jeff back and forth. I have sent a report to the FBI. I have. The Apple Corporation did a 1-hour deep dive audit of my phone. They said they didn't find anything. AOL and Google all said we don't know how all 4 email servers could get wiped. So I have no emails from 2021 May till the first time I ever had an iPhone. I do have the sent ones. Thank God.
That's lucky.
But most of my emails are from my past are all gone. So that really was scary. Jeff Rense was very creeped out about that also. But I went on Jeff.
Do you think it could be because they wanted to let you know they were watching you? Because
that's exactly what 3 whistleblowers or military intelligence people said. They said to me, look, they're trying to let you know we're out there. We're listening and we know what's going on. And another person said that the fact that I emailed Andrew Burlington all those times, that set off the trigger. That overseas email sets off the initial trigger. Boom. Now they start looking to see what the email's about. Then they see aliens, and then they keep doing the deep dive. This is what I was told. You can take this information however I'm talking to your viewers. You take that however you want. So I thought if I went on podcasts and radio shows, that maybe I could metastasize this investigation, that I could put it out into the airwaves like the Oprah Winfrey effect, and maybe get some, because I hear the military intelligence listens basically to everything and makes notes and sends reports. I mean, I heard this from many people. So I thought maybe somebody that's willing to come forward to help me would happen. And sure enough, about 2 weeks, sometime in June of 21, because my critics want me to be specific, I started getting very cordial emails from a person. I call him the chairman for good reasons. And it simply was introductory emails. I enjoyed your show on Jeff Rense. You had a lot of things right. You had a lot of things wrong. Ben, here is weird. I would get these emails once a month on a Tuesday. One Tuesday a month. So, yeah, so about 6 months into these emails, again, I'm talking to people like Linda Howe and Don Schmidt and Michael Carter of Ancient Aliens, but I haven't really gotten anyone associated with the story. And finally, I get an email, I think it was maybe September of 21. And I said to myself, wait a minute, my father was on the board of directors of a financial credit union, like a bank run by people, for people in the
good for
UK.
him. Yeah.
That's what a credit union is.
Those things will save the world, I'll tell you.
Yes, sir. And that credit union met once the first Tuesday of every month. And I know in Illinois, it's called the Open Meetings Act. If you're a corporation, you have to have a board of directors meeting one time every month. So I'm like, I'm wondering if this guy is on the board of directors, and when he goes to somewhere, he's emailing me. So I get the email. This is Da Vinci Code stuff, a pretty cool story. And I see that the email, and I can't divulge my source. I will never divulge my source on the chairman. That is my deep throat, like the Watergate investigation. But I will tell you some interesting things.
Wouldn't want him to come to any harm,
When he dies, he's way older than me. When he dies, then I'll consider telling who he was. But I found out through backtracing the email, again, trying to be a good investigator, not just taking his emails for face value. Apparently, his daughter worked at this institution, if I'm using the right vernacular, and he would go to her office once a month when he had the board meeting and email me from her office.
On that day, yeah.
So then I found his first name. He accidentally put his first name on one of the emails. So I took the institution
Freudian
and his
slip
name. I'm afraid of. Oh, he has.
No, I see Freudian slip.
So he accidentally put his first name on one of the emails. I took his first name with the institution that I knew the email was coming from, So when I found out, Ben, who this man was, very prominent man in an American city, I fell off my couch. And I can't see your video, Ben, if that's okay. I don't know. If that's
I'm just saving
Okay.
I just have to save what we recorded. Okay, won't be a sec.
Okay.
There we go.
I'll start over then.
You can't see my video. All right. Well, my video's there. It seems to be working, but so I can see myself. I can see you and I can see myself. Can you not see my video?
Allow incoming video. I got. Okay. No, I can't. Let me. There's me again. Okay, yeah, I can't see your video.
Yeah. Oh, great. No, so this guy, he maybe it was a Freudian slip, but he put his first name on the email, whether he intended to or not.
And that's one thing that I've noticed in the past 5 years of this investigation. No matter who you are, you're a human being, and you slip, you make mistakes. So, and when I found when I took his first name in the institution that the emails were coming from, Ben. I don't do creepy. I'm not hyperbolic, but I literally fell off my couch because he was a very prominent man of this American city. And I went, why is this guy reaching out to me? Why is he so interested? And I'm thinking, wait a minute, maybe he's just interested in aliens. I mean, because he's prominent doesn't mean that he doesn't have an interest in paranormal or whatever.
That's true. Some people, they do sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So then on my birthday, which was, so he started emailing me in June of 21. In March, and I want people to feel for me. I communicated with this guy all the way till March of 2022 on my birthday. Now, I'm a former pro wrestler. I ran for governor, but you could find my birthday on the internet if you look hard enough. On my birthday, I get from the horse's mouth. I interpreted that as he was getting it from a place, if that makes sense. And sure enough, Ben, I opened up my email and I saw this copy of a dossier, which he told me was from the DIA. Now, I'm not saying he is from
Defense Intelligence Agency.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That he claims it was from the DIA. this older philanthropist, prominent member, has now sent me a report, according to him, from the DIA. And my hand is shaking because I'm looking down, but I'm not focusing on my email, and I'm seeing names, Captain this, Vice Admiral this, Doctor this. I see scientists and Air Force police, and I'm like, wait, whoa. So I'm in my car, my hand's shaking. He's like, happy birthday. And he sends me the report in March on my 4th of my birthday, 2022, that of who was behind the viewing partition glass of this alien being, okay, how the film was taken out of S4, and he never says S4, by the way, and the time and the date of this film, which is in conflict with what Victor said. And I've always believed Victor had many white lies in his testimony to simply continue to draw away of who he was and to make distance between himself and the alien interview program.
Yeah. Well, that kind of makes sense. I mean, in his position, who could blame him? Maybe if he'd been too honest, they might have worked out who he was.
Right. So it was. Victor says it was in January. It was actually in April. I have the time of this, and he says that there were other agencies that went before the DNI to interview this alien. I mean, as crazy as this sounds, almost like a conga line. You know, you're waiting outside the office. Okay, is the CIA here? Okay, you're not. And
really?
Yes. And everyone had 15 minutes with this being. And so the DNI was the last group to have thought projection interview with this being. He tells me, or it says in his notes below, that this official program under Project Aquarius was called the Alien Retention and Interrogation Program. I thought that was really very interesting names that I don't think somebody could just make that up as a hoax.
No, it's actually
my
sounds,
opinion.
No,
it does sound military.
It sounds like what you'd expect from some government military or intelligence outfit. And Project Aquarius exactly?
Thank you. Project Aquarius had anything to do with human to ET contact, whether that be craft, flying in the sky, recovery, aliens, abductions. Aquarius was the umbrella project for any contact from alien to human, whether that was contact on purpose, interview, abduction, crash, retrieval, so on and so forth.
I'm only asking. The reason I'm asking is because I interviewed a lady called Dr. Irina Scott. I did about 3 interviews with her, and she worked at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where her husband was actually Area 51 as well. And she talks about. She's written a book called Sacred Corridors, and she mentions extraterrestrial crash retrievals, aliens, things like that, live and dead aliens. So yeah, I think she mentioned that.
Yes, right. So I always thought 2 things were not copacetic with Victor. His bad description of what number 27 was on the bottom of the film in Blazing. It's called digital overlay graphic. I had to do a deep dive on that. I did a 3-week deep dive on digital overlay graphics from the 80s. Again, trying to be the good investigator. However, so Victor said it was a gerrymandered catalog system. I didn't believe that for 1 second. Also, what I didn't believe was that he could take a CD-ROM, a thumb drive, out of S4. Now, this is the one of the only things Richard Doty, who I contacted after all of this, my wife contacted him on Facebook. He did tell me that, and I'm not jumping forward, the entire complex, everyone is getting this wrong about S4. S4 only pertains to the levels underneath the ground at the site, which is S2. The entire site at Papoose Lake is S2. And the way to get down into S2 to go over to S4, the levels, is annexed to. Now, that's something that Doty was like, John, you could think whatever you want about me. I'm going to make you a hero in the UFO community, because hardly anyone knows anything about S2. He goes, and Doty sends me a satellite photo of the building. Doty said, look, I've only been down to level 1 and 2 of S2, but you pull your car down the ramp, they hook up an exhaust hose to your tailpipe, you exchange badges, and then you continue on to lower levels of S2. I said, no, Rick, you mean S4? He said, no, John, the alien housing complex is under S2 annex. I'm like, the what? He's like, the alien housing complex is not in S4 levels. It is at underneath the S2 annex. That is the alien complex is under S2. Now I'm taking this all with a grain of salt. Okay, thanks.
So it's S4 is where the sources and things are, and then there's S2 is a different place. Is that it?
Well, I'm gonna explain.
Sure.
So,
sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. No, that's okay. S4. Yes, the top above ground level is where the craft are, and that's 60-degree angle garage doors painted with sand coating, and then there are 4 levels underneath that. Okay. So I take what Doty said about, no, this Victor is wrong. This happened, and Doty is adamant. He goes, this interview happened in under S2. They don't have interview seats at S4. I'll go forward 3 years, but I'll go back. 3 years later, Dan Burrish does the schematics of S4. He allegedly was a biologist at S4. Michael Schatt, he did the whole schematics of S4, every level. There are no interview levels below at S in the level 4 of S4. So Doty was seemingly correct, and he was backed up by somebody completely unknown to him or to me. And I saw Michael Schatt's diagram. There are no interview rooms at level 4 at S4. So Victor was, but Doty said a lot of people just use S4. Like somebody saying they're at Madison Square Garden performing when it's really the arena next to Madison Square. I understand that. And Doty's like, it's not that our people are trying to lie to the community. It's just that they use S4 as like this overall reaching name, because that's really the levels that a lot of people were in. So I found that very interesting.
It's just like a nickname, like
So
like Area 51.
Kind of, yeah. So it's like saying Kleenex for tissue paper when there's other types of tissue paper. Okay.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I really said Victor's full of shit, if I can swear, sorry.
Yeah, it's an adult program, yeah.
Okay. That Victor was full of shit was that he took a CD-ROM or a thumb drive out of S4. From what we have been told, from what I have been told, from what I have heard, take this any way you want, you're not getting anything out of S4, the underground levels. You are weighed in the naked before you go in by a medical director or medical medic of your own gender. You are stripped naked. Your penis is hanging out or your vagina is exposed. Your butt cheeks are spread like you're in prison. You're weighed. Your food content is weighed to make sure you weighed the same going in is the same going out. You are not taking anything out of S4. Now, Victor says he was pissed off because people were bringing personal items into S4, like a Rubik's Cube, or I'm making that up, like a little doll or a family picture.
What he actually said in the interview was that some information was temporarily moved to a lower security level than it normally was, and that allowed him to have access to it. But he didn't give any detail. He didn't actually give any details in the interview what kind of medium he used or what it was to get it out.
Well, this report from the DIA computers, or their file, I could say, this report says how it was smuggled out. And I went, of course. Do you remember the movie Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 13, where the money from the casino is let out? It's let out by the casino because they don't know that the money is there. So what the report says, and by the way, the report does not call it a theft of a film, or it calls it an unauthorized viewing. Found that very,
that's
again,
another bit of government jargon, that.
But I think of that? No. So an unauthorized viewing. It said that at the end of the DNI interview session, the being started to be medically distressed. The interview was then ended. This is verbatim, folks, from the DIA report, according to what I was sent. The United States Air Force cameraman and the film was then escorted out of S4 by United States Air Force policemen, and the cameraman was driven to the Groom Lake photo lab, not Area 51 like I would have said if I was lying or hoaxing, to the Groom Lake photo lab. Then 3 days later, why would you say, if it wasn't true, why would you say 3 days later? I mean, these stupid, again, it's so emblematic of this whole investigation. These stupid little, minute little tidbits that, like, it's got to be
anecdotes,
somewhat valid.
Yeah.
So 3 days later, here we go. 3 days later, 2 copies of the film were made, and that is when, in my opinion, the digital overlay graphics were put on. Because think about it, you have this 56-minute film, and you've got to cut off the part for, let's say, the DIA or the DOD or, you know, the NSA, and then you've got to send the DNI its portion. So you label it DNI, okay? And it said 2 copies were made. 1 copy was put into a GSA burn bag. I didn't even know what the GSA are until I Googled it. It's the Government Services Administration. They do things like shredding documents for the government, mopping floors, disposing of waste and garbage.
Yeah,
so
we do that for the in the hospital for medical records. You have to shred them. But just to ask them, how come this camera was taken to Groom Lake, which is a less secure facility? It's basically the main Area 51 campus.
I have no idea, but that's apparently where the photo lab is for you know, making recordings and cataloging and whatnot. This is I don't have an answer for that, and I'm assuming that, you know, why would you make another photo processing place in these facilities when maybe there's time, space, or I don't know.
Yeah,
but all I know is that it was there on Area 51. There is a photo lab. So it was put in a GSA burn bag. It was then then somehow put into a gym bag and taken off of Area 51. Folks, just bear with me here. Now I'm going bullshit. You're not getting
that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Yeah.
You're not getting a bag of anything out of Area 51. Yes, yes, it is possible. From 3 different people that have worked at Area 51 with various minor jobs, they've all said the same thing. There were guards at Area 51 who were very lax. And you pick the right day, and with the right guard, your pocket might not be checked. The deep contents of your briefcase might not be checked. Your duffel bag of maybe a change of clothes might not be picked away like somebody at customs. And apparently this government issued burn bag, which is, you know, you're burning something. This is not going to be microscoped by anyone saying, well, there's high level top secret stuff in it, or, you know, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong. And it was in the burn bag was placed underneath in a gym bag by a lax security guard. And that is how that film was smuggled out.
Well, that's interesting because Victor mentioned that the medical team at S4, S2, wherever it is, they were selected more from their ability to keep secrets and from their proficiency. Right. It's possible that the security team was also. I know the perimeter security Area 51 is provided by civilian contractor EG&G, Wackenhut, AG&G. Yeah, mercenaries basically. They don't use military for regular, you know, because it's outsourcing. Easy, oldest trick in the book. But
again, S4. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the intern. I mean, the actual security inside the base. I'm not sure how that operates, but it may be that. Anyway, carry on. Yeah, explain.
Yeah. At the inside the base is Air Force security, Air Force police. At S4 and S2, it is Navy SEAL, military, ex-military sentries, and it's draconian. And we've heard that from Lazar. From Victor, from Dan Burris, your badge is crooked. You know, the security it's draconian, and so now we know that the film has left Area 51. Let's go back to the names on the on the report. Now I'm not going to mention the names, but I'm here to tell you it's anticlimactic, folks. You don't know any of these people. Linda Moulton Howell, which is the UFO expert one of them on the, on top of the hill of wise people, said, I've never heard of any of these people on this list, any of these military men on this list. So now I go, being an investigator, I'm looking at this report with one eye going, okay, let me go investigate. So the first name is a colonel. I Wikipedia or Google him. He's retired at the time in 1991 when this film was made. I'm like, well, this is bullshit. I've already proven it's wrong. This guy was a retired. Why would he be down in S4 or in S2? He's retired. Now I look at his bio. He then worked for TRW as soon as he got out of the Air Force.
Oh yeah, retired doesn't mean just playing golf for the rest of your life, does it?
Right. And TRW might as well be Lockheed or Raytheon. It's so deep shoulder to shoulder with the Pentagon and DOD and secret projects. So I'm like, wow. Why would you put somebody's name that wasn't in the military for me to call hoax? I would never do that if I was sending this report as a fake report.
It's an obscure name, yeah.
The next name, blah, 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 Captain, blah, blah, U.S. Navy Intelligence. I Google him. He's a vice admiral. I'm like, well, hoax. It's a captain. The guy's a vice admiral. I call up my one friend, one of my co-investigators, Chris Jackson. I'm like, Chris, it's bullshit. The email's bullshit. This guy is a vice admiral, and it says that he was a captain. He's like, John. I'm like, yeah. He goes, the report is from 1991, supposedly.
Yeah. He's gone
What
upstairs.
was his rank? What was his rank in 91? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Jesus, could this thing be real? I go to the next guy. By the way, I emailed that vice admiral. We shared 4 back-to-back emails because, folks, I don't quit when I find something. I go and I go and I go, trying to be a good investigator. I emailed that vice admiral 4 times back and forth. We had this great conversation. I was almost ready to fly to the East Coast to play golf with him.
Did he?
And then he said, said,
carry on.
well, what is this documentary you're doing? Send me what you want to send me. Now, remember, this guy was emailing me back, call me by my nickname, that kind of relationship. I sent him the report with his name on it, the report I got from the chairman. Called me, never returned an email, ghosted me. When you ghost somebody in 2022, that says a lot. That means like you're like going, oh Jesus, let me not say anything because I don't want to incriminate or, I just don't want to say anything. This, 72-year-old vice admiral retired, completely ghosted me. And my question to people watching this is, why?
Well, it can't be fake.
Why not call me back and say, kid, you're nuts. This report is nuts. And you could be in trouble creating this document. And don't ever call me. Nothing. Ghosted.
Yeah. He didn't say anything like, oh, don't be daft.
No.
There's not these videos are fake or anything like that. Don't waste my time with this.
Thank you. Now the next one is a vice admiral at the time. Rear vice admiral. I find out that he is, and I don't want to give it away, but he was very high up in naval intelligence, and that's all I'm going to say right now.
Fair enough.
Very, very high up in naval intelligence, and I will get back to him because he will make you fall off your chair. The next person is Dr. blah, 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 forgive me, and it says scientist with a question mark. Like even the DIA, the report, whoever did this report was like, I really don't know why this guy was here, or was he one of the doctors tending to the creature? I Google him, and he is still practicing medicine in Connecticut. Now, here's bombshell number 3. What was he in 1991? Now remember, this creature had a respiratory issue, coughing, couldn't breathe. In 1991, the doctor, and this is the doctor to the creature's left, our right, was with the VA, the Veterans Administration. And what did he do in the VA? He was a pulmonologist.
Lungs.
Now, lungs. Are you? So you send me this report. You find a doctor with the VA 25 years ago who was a pulmonologist, and you write his name down, and then you really do a bad job, and you put a question mark, like, I don't really know who this person is. I call bullshit. I say that that's a legit line from the DIA report.
Yeah. Now, just to reiterate, John, these are the people who were in that film. Do you think they were actually?
No. Well, yeah, the two doctors, and then the men behind the viewing glass. Two of them we see. Two of them we don't. And then you have the police officer who was probably outside the room and the cameraman, if I've gotten that correct. So bear with me on that. So now we go to the next doctor. I Google him. Nothing on him. I find out that he did live in California through another source. How could a doctor who practiced for 50 years have nothing on the internet? I mean, not an award, not a divorce, a bankruptcy hearing, not his old office website, nothing. But I find his second wife, who he widowed. I get her name and I get her number. This is the doctor to the alien's right, our left. He's the one holding the alien's shoulders.
Oh, my, yeah.
I get his second wife. I'm going to make up a name here, Kim. She's about 79 years old. Hi, Kim. This is Jon Stewart. I'm an investigative reporter, documentary filmmaker. I wanted to ask you about your husband. He has a nickname, and his nickname was in parentheses in the DIA report. And she said, okay. And this is like telling some married wife that her husband dressed in women's clothes. This was very weird for me. I want to get that across to your listeners.
Yeah.
This was a very bizarre experience, but trying to be a good investigator, trying to follow through. I said, Kim, I'm using a fake name. Kim, it has come to my attention that your husband, at some point in his medical career, was involved in a very bizarre program with the government involving extraterrestrials.
That's a difficult question to ask.
My right hand to God. There's silence on the other end. And I'm like, hello? She's like, John, that's really interesting. And I'm thinking I'm going to get hung up on. She's like, because that all makes sense now. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what makes sense? She's like, John, she goes, I'm 79 years old. I don't remember her exact age, but it was in the late 70s. Forgive me for, Andrew hates when I do this, but forgive me for being, broad stroke. She's like, in all the time that I was married to my husband, he never talked about his time in the Army Medical Corps. Kim, what is the Army Medical Corps? She's like, well, that's the unit in the Army for doctors. I'm like, oh, okay. I looked down at the DIA list, folks, right hand to God. It says Dr. Army Medical Corps. I'm like, I don't know how I missed that. Well, I have attention deficit disorder, so that's how I missed it. So this woman is back. This woman, 79-year-old widow, is backing up a report from the DIA. I mean, I'm just saying, like, come on. And she said, John, all of our friends that we go out with in a social setting have been in Korea, World War II, Vietnam. Every man talks about funny or unusual stories of their time in the service. Maybe not hardcore combat stories, but something funny about their drill instructor or where they did basic training or stuff like that. She goes, my husband refused to speak about anything of his time in the Army Medical Corps. Room was always mums, tight-lipped when everyone else was sharing war stories. And I always found that so odd. And I always said to myself, what did my husband do that he can't talk about? And she goes, your phone call makes complete sense now. And
so it wasn't what he said. It was what he didn't say. It was right. She just noticed that he didn't talk about it. Yeah.
She couldn't figure it out. The next two people after that, I can't give it away. And I don't want to go down the Da Vinci Code on this one, but they were the two telepaths, and it wasn't telepathy, by the way. It was thought projection. No one really used telepathy as a word in this program. It was all thought projection, meaning you didn't have to think what the alien was saying. It was like put into your head, for lack of a better word.
Did
but
Victor use that word? I can't remember.
I don't remember either. And these two had a vocation. That's all I'll leave it as. What person has a vocation? So, and Victor tells us that the thought projection telepathy program was a joke. These people were one level above 1-800. I find another whistleblower that was never at S2 or S4. So I want to be clear on that, but had a lot of anecdotal stories. And he said, John, it was always common knowledge that there was two men. He didn't say who they were, what their occupation or vocation was, and I'm giving a hint there. He said, but they were like, it was like instant. These two could instantaneously know what the alien was trying to communicate. And they would be put in front of the alien, they would sit down, and they would immediately turn back to whoever was standing behind him and say, this being said he's from the Pleiades. This being says, and this being, and he doesn't like the first interviewer that interviewed him yesterday, and blah, you know, and it was, and he said it was unbelievable how in tune they were with these creatures. And I find it funny that this person mentions two people, a person that I went to go find, who's never been in S4 and S2, but anecdotal story, and it's also on this DIA report.
It's interesting, John, by the way, that do you know General Albert Stubblebine? Have you heard that?
I've heard of the last name.
Yeah,
yes.
he was he was involved with the remote viewing program for the CIA in Stanford and things like that. He said that basically anyone who applied to join the military or the an intelligence agency or the civil service or anything like that in the States would, if you showed signs of having an ability which you might call clairvoyant, psychic, mediumship, anything like that, you would be spotted. There were ways and means of spotting that and trying to recruit you to these programs. It could be remote viewing. There's a guy called Ingo Swann who did that. Uri Geller was supposedly, well, I think he was involved with this, and they're the most famous, but there were many others. And that sounds like this could be part of that same program. These people may well have come from that same project.
Absolutely concur with that. So now I go back and I see, I look further down, and I'm going to say his name because there's only two things about him: his birth certificate and his death certificate. Although, again, I know people are sick of this. Trying to be the good investigator, I deep dived on this guy for 7 months. The report says a Joseph Yeager assisted the cameraman in selling the film to a third party, Rocket Pictures. I get a second report of how would I put it? Of
selling it to Rocket Pictures.
So wait a minute. Okay. No. And again, I want to be a man here. I've been wrong on this journey, okay? And I was wrong about the first Victor that I thought. So I am admitting this. You know, I don't. It's not like I did something on purpose, but and it said in the second report from the chairman, his own notes, it is believed that Joseph Yeager was Victor.
Okay. Selling the photo, selling it to Rocket Pictures. Yeah.
My hand's shaking. I had to whittle down the last time Victor was alive, we know of, 2008 and 2022. I went through about 3 weeks of obituaries to finally find a Yeager that died in 2010. He was in the Navy in Korea. I found out that he was from San Antonio, Texas. He sold his family's home. I mean, I'm really proud of the stuff that I came up with. Him and his girlfriend, or he did at least, did a Nicolas Cage Leaving Las Vegas where he drank himself to death. He took the money, I found out, from the second interview. Now, Andrew Burlington sees a Ziploc clear bag of cash in the door well of the Honda CRV in the second interview in 2008.
Oh, right,
I find out that Victor took that cash, the sale of his parents' home. He went to a winery, bed and breakfast in San Antonio, and literally drank himself into being homeless on the street. I also find out that he had a military burial via a homeless military association that buries veterans that are homeless. Very sad. I'm like, oh my God, how could Victor end up on the street? A wino. And he does say that, pour me a glass of Bushmills in the Art Bell interview. So he did drink.
He has drink.
So now
he mentions also in the 2008 interview that he was very ill and was about
correct,
to. He said
that he was dying.
Yeah,
correct.
My vessel has
so
reached its expiration date. Yeah.
Right. So again, folks, you don't believe me. I mean, I'm not telling anything for people to believe. I'm just simply telling you what I found. Don't believe what I found is correct. But Victor said he's dying in 2008, and I find a guy in 2010 with the same name who died, who's in the military, so on and so forth.
This is not this Joseph Yeager character. This is someone different.
This is Joseph Yeager.
This is
that I'm talking about. Right. So I'm like, oh my God, I found Victor. I'm going to be on Good Morning America. I'm going to be on 60 Minutes Australia. I'm going to be the new Bob Lazar of UFO world, and I've done it. And Andrew, by the way, was rolling his eyes because he thought my Yeager was a little too old. Okay, so now I'm like, well, this isn't enough. This is not enough. I can't confirm Yeager. I go fly to talk to his ex-girlfriend. I put words in her mouth. She said, yes, my ex-boyfriend was part of the filming. I tell Andrew Burlington, it's Victor. She knows he's Victor. She didn't say that to me, and I'm admitting that. But I'm hyper. I'm excited. I put words in people's mouths at time when I'm being, when I know something's for real. So Andrew is makes me pause and be like, I need to do it. I need to further do a deep dive. I'm like, wait a minute. I've been screwing around for 20 years, for really 4 or 5 years, a deep dive. Why have I not just gone to the horse's mouth? The only person that really saw Victor face to face, the director, Jeff Broadstreet, of the 2 documentaries. So I emailed Jeff. He's a little stiff. He's a little, he's a little guarded, a lot guarded. And one thing he does tell me was, he said, Victor was a major pain in the ass and very difficult to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay.
He can tell that by his manner in the interview.
Right. He goes, John, this is Hollywood. I have an NDA. If I tell you anything about Victor, I'm going to be, going against my NDA. I can be sued. Most importantly, I could lose money for telling you. And he said, what breadcrumb could I give you? These are my words. What can I give you for the money that you can't afford? I said, look, could you give me at least his first name? Thinking if he tells me, Bob or Harry, this is going to be really difficult. But I just wanted to know if it was going to be Joseph, as far as Joseph Yeager. Okay.
That'd be a confirmation, wouldn't it?
Right. Trying, folks, to do this to the nth degree. I hope people can appreciate that. So I paid Jeff $500, which I think is a lot of money for a first name. He does a very professional contract, and this is California law applies to the contract. I PayPal him $500. Jeff comes back with it's $515 because PayPal's charging me a fee. So okay. So I get the first name. I'm not going to say it here because it doesn't matter. But then it's not Joseph. I'm like,
oh, it's not Joseph.
Shit,
right.
Shit. No, I gotta go back to Burlington with hat in hand and like. But this Joseph Yeager helped the cameraman with obviously Victor to sell this video, or at least I'm assuming.
So he was an accomplice.
He was part of the cabal, correct. So I'm like, well, okay, so now. Shoot. So now I take the first name, which is a very unusual name, and I find 4 men in California who died with this first name. And I will simply say that I could be wrong on either one, but it's down to 2 people. And we are going to eventually have to pay Jeff Broadstreet thousands of dollars to go on camera to get the whole story. We are in the works of doing that. Hollywood has glacial speed, so bear with me. That's one thing I get criticized for it's coming. The documentary's coming. I am sorry for saying that. But it will come out, and I want to apologize to people for saying that it's coming. Don't worry. Wait. So we've got Victor down to 2 people, and Jeff Broadstreet has agreed to tell us the entire story of who Victor was. But then I get Sean David Morton. And people have told me, don't talk to Sean Morton. He was audited by the IRS. My dad was audited by the IRS. My dad's one of the straightest businessmen in Chicago. Being audited doesn't make you a liar or, whatever.
No, he went to jail. I don't know the details of why he went to jail, but, I'm still friends with him. I still know the guy.
Right.
I mean, I
Right.
I spoke to him a couple of times,
Right. Doesn't make it that he's going to lie about the Victor thing. So I call Sean. Sean's been an angel of mine in this whole investigation with John, keep going. You can do it. Come on, brother. Get to the end of this. And Sean Morton basically says, John, I was in the office when Victor called. Tom Coleman went on the speakerphone. Jeff, can you pick up this call? This was not an actor. And everyone, Ben, has been telling me since 1997, from Hollywood to government to conspiracy people. Prove who Victor is, you prove the video. Prove he's an actor, hoax. Prove he's a scientist, a government employee, a contractor, oh shit, this is real.
I've heard
Sean,
loads of theories, and people have claimed he's Whitley Strieber, which is actually not true.
he's not.
But no, but
He's not.
Whitley has an alibi, actually. Yeah.
Right, and the voices sound familiar because they've taken Victor's voice alter away. It's not.
They have, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not Whitley, no.
So Sean Morton says, and listen to me, folks, listen to me. Sean Morton says, John, he called out of the blue. I wouldn't lie to you. This guy was not an actor brought in by Rocket Pictures. And Sean goes, and I can tell you why he ended up calling Rocket. Bombshell number 5. Victor went to Fox Studios, and he says this on his interview, and they basically threw him out because they couldn't guarantee his security. Okay, he walks kitty corner out of Fox Studios, and there is a newsstand on Sepulveda Boulevard in Los Angeles. He picks up Variety magazine, which is the entertainment industry magazine. He opens up to a page of an advertisement of Rocket Pictures trying to sell a Tim Conway funny golf VHS tape. And Victor says, well, if they're game to do a comedy tape like this, maybe they talk to me. And that is how Victor ended up calling
so it's almost random.
Rocket Pictures.
So it's almost like a random thing.
We're random with a great backstory from Sean Morton. And Sean Morton says, John, from the tips of my toes, Victor was not a paid actor. Okay. Yeah. And Jeff Broadstreet says that. And I've dealt with Tom Coleman, the CEO of Rocket Pictures. He doesn't want to be involved with this, but he said the same thing. He did not create that alien, and Victor came to them completely off the streets.
I can believe it. I mean, I interviewed Sean for I did a 20th anniversary show in 2017, and I interviewed Sean about this. And of course, as I explained, I mean, Andrew won't do like a live interview, but I've spoken to him. He's a shy kind of chap, but I spoke to him privately, and he went through how all the people he'd spoken to in the industry and the people that he'd looked into, and it's actually quite a small, quite close knit club. The special effects design community,
and that's another thing that I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not calling Andrew's analysis into question. He did remarkable work. But me going to the New York Times and saying, oh, a co-researcher of mine analyzed the film. I mean, okay, anyone else would do it? Any other specialist that could refutate or back up Andrew's analysis? So I hired the man National Geographic hired to analyze the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot film. His name was Bill Munns. I paid him $2,500. My wife was not happy. I could tell you one thing Bill said, and Bill is still on the fence himself. I'm being honest with you. Bill said, John, every single foam animatronic doll from the 60s till 4 hours ago has a crease in the armpits, because when they make the cast of the foam creature, they eventually have to lay it down on the table, and that is when the arms come down and lay down with gravity, and always causes a crease in the armpits. He sends me like 5 photos. He goes, your alien does not have any creases in its armpit. And he goes, and that to me is a head scratcher. And Bill Munns disagrees with Andrew Burlington. Bill Munns, and I'm not saying Andrew's wrong, but Bill Munns, the special effects expert, this video expert, said this was originally shot on 16 millimeter film. And he was defiant about that. So he did disagree with Andrew on that. Andrew claims that he thinks it was VHS. So here I am again. I'm not just taking Andrew's word. I go hire a guy from National Geographic, and now I get another anomaly. I'm like, this is really quite weird. Not weird. Yeah. Now we go to the creepy parts. For a year, a person who's been on TV on the History Channel has been trying to connect me with a whistleblower he has. I wouldn't say a whistleblower, but a leaker he has, who works for a government alphabet agency. And for a year, this guy has also, just like the chairman, reading me out, testing me. Finally, I get a call from this person. And this is the 6th bombshell. And I just started talking about this yesterday or 2 days ago. And one of he is with an agency, and his part of this is dealing with the alien phenomenon. He said, John, if you want to use one new word, there's a new word for extraterrestrials or aliens, in the Pentagon or in the deep state or whatever. And if you say it, you're going to make generals do a spit take, like a comedy spit take of their coffee across the room. He said folks, listen up here. The new designation of extraterrestrial aliens is SABER, like a sword, SABER, synthetic astrobiological extraterrestrial races. This is the new vernacular for ETs. Just like UAPs were UFOs, sabers are now EBINs or whatnot. And he's like, and like Doty tried to help me be like on top of the mountain for a minute in the UFO world. I appreciate this guy trying to give me something that no one else has ever talked about, because no one has ever talked about SABER. No one. So I just started talking about
that's a term I've not heard before. I've not heard that term before. Okay,
go ahead.
Carry on.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to ask, wanted to give a little aside about Richard Doty. I mean, because Richard Doty is someone quite well known. He spoke actually at this event in Blackpool I was at last year. Are you familiar with his background, about his his reputation?
Of course I am. And Andrew thinks I'm like this massive Doty proponent. All I can say is Doty has been a gentleman with me, and everything he has said, which is not a lot, I'm telling you, Doty has not told me hardly anything. It's all been vernacular in logistics, like S2. It's not S4, it's S2. Claims he's never seen an alien face to face. This is an disinfo agent.
Oh, he can be very nice. I know he can be very nice.
But my point is, I was a liar as a pro wrestler. I lied for a living about myself, my bio, whether I was hurt, whether I was mad at an opponent. I lied for a living. Does that make me 20 years later a liar? And here's that's all I'm saying about Rick Doty.
I wouldn't suggest we should ignore him. Definitely, I wouldn't say ignore him. No.
Does anyone else know anyone that's been at S2 or S4? That's alive. Exactly. And Doty's got the proof with military documents that he was at S2. I don't know who else has been out there. So why would I ignore him? I'm getting a low.
Oh, no. I would never ignore him, but I would treat him with caution. I would be cautious around him and be wary of what he says.
I think I've proven to you and your audience for the past 40 minutes that every piece of information I've gotten, I've done a deep dive on. I have never taken anyone's information at first. At face value, and that's gospel. I don't do that. I'm a better investigator than that.
I know you are, John. I know.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's just one phrase you use. You said, he'd make you a hero of ufology. See, William Moore, Bill Moore, met with these guys called the Avery team. Now, he had a meeting in a restaurant with his team, the Avery. This was back in about 1983, 84, a long time ago.
Right.
And they said the same thing to him. And it's almost certain that one of those people at that meeting was Richard Doty. His code name was Falcon, I think.
Falcon, that's correct. I totally understand that. I totally agree with that. Of Doty telling about S2. My point is, if you can remember, I didn't take that at face value. I then found Michael Shack's diagram of the levels, and there was no video. There was no interview hall or interview room at S4. So I'm just saying that whatever Doty did tell me, I did back up with other people's testimony. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough.
That's cool, and again, and I'm not doing this as gospel. I am telling you what I found out. Whether you want to agree with that or not is up to you. That is my credibility as a UFO researcher. I don't, unlike a lot of other UFO researchers, I don't cram my beliefs down anyone's throat. I present my information. You do what you want, but I want you to know the information I presented has got 3 or 4 vetting resources to back what I am saying or what I found out. That is all I'm simply saying. Okay.
Oh, thanks, John. Thanks.
And I met Doty months after the chairman started to email me. So any connection of Doty and the chairman is completely ridiculous, especially who I find. Unless Doty is a massive philanthropist who's 74 years old in a major metropolitan city, the chairman ain't Doty. Okay.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm sure he's not.
But no, I thank you. So now this leaker from that has been contacting me. He goes by a literary name from American literature, so let's call him Gatsby. Now I said, look, I've got to get you on my documentary. He said, okay, send me the list of questions. I'll take it to my commanding officer. Here's what gets kind of creepy for Jon Stewart, me. I sent him a series of questions that he takes to his commanding officer of this government agency. I don't hear from him for a week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Finally, I go to the History Channel star. I said, this is ridiculous. I was a gentleman to him, and I did everything that he told me to do or not to. I demand to know if he's still alive, if he's in trouble, or if I'm in trouble. Ben, about 2 hours later, I get a text message on the Signal app, which is an encrypted text. And it seems like somebody wrote this for him. John, I cannot communicate with you anymore. I have been told, not by my commanding officer, but a higher up in the Pentagon, that I have a cease and desist in talking to you. He said, you are on the watch list for your frequent overseas emails. Thank you, Andrew Burlington. And Ben, probably talking to you too.
Yeah, your overseas phone calls as well.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
I'm sure they're listening to us right now. Yeah,
frequent overseas emails, the nature of my questions, the nature of my documentary, and he said, or they said, your FOIA request. Quick story. 3 weeks ago, I go to the DIA. I said, what happened to my FOIA request on Aquarius? The person named Andrew at DIA said this, my right hand to God, John, I've never seen this before in my life at the FOIA desk. Your name is on our system, but you do not have a file attached to it. You can't get on the system without a FOIA request file attached to it. He said somebody, and I don't know how or why, removed that file from your name. And I'm like, well, this is a little spooky now.
That is.
2 hours later after that, I get the FOIA request. Mr. Stewart, due to the nature of your request, we have to do further investigation, further cross-conferencing with heads of other intelligence agencies to verify the information is not designated as top secret to be able to send you. I have the FOIA letter. I'm like, oh my God. Oh boy. Okay. Now I go back to his text message. It says, do not share this. Do not clip and paste this. You are not to share this with anyone. And after he said that, all I can say was this weird defense military vernacular coding like DOD ... VSC 235211 under the rule 4475 of communication under the, and his texts were never had this almost like legal military vernacular, like you're in freaking trouble if you send this to anyone. I deleted it immediately, and I never had contact with Gatsby again. But for him to tell me that I'm on not a hit list, but a watch list with the Pentagon, all of a sudden this United States Senator retired that's been my friend for 25 years, he stops texting me, which is pretty weird and scary. A couple of other whistleblowers have stopped communication with me, which is a little scary too. And so I say to everyone, you've heard my spiel. I'm an independent automobile dealer, retired, a former pro wrestler. If everything I have found out about this film is complete bollocks, why would I be blacklisted? Why are files being removed under my name at the DIA? Why are people being told not to talk to me? Why is a vice admiral ghosting me instead of calling me crazy and that what I'm seeing is ridiculous? Why? Why is this? Why is this happening if what I've discovered and what Andrew Burlington has discovered is bullshit? Why is all this happening? That's for your listeners and viewers to decide for themselves.
Well, this is a question I've had to ask too, because I mean I've listened to a couple of your other interviews you've done with other people, and you've gone into all these details, and it doesn't fit with this being bollocks, to use the English expression. No. It doesn't fit with it at all. And you know, you're not the only one who's had this kind of experience when it comes to this film. I mean, Andrew himself has had things with Sean David Morton. I've talked to people investigating this. It's so different from the alien autopsy situation. It's interesting. It's very interesting to compare the two actually, and how different they are.
Totally.
Where allegedly they're both just fake dummies made by students and etc. Just trying to make a bit of money. I don't know how much money Rocket actually made off the interview. The interview wasn't half as popular as the autopsy, so I doubt if they made a fortune off it. I mean, if I were in their position and I'd fake the whole thing, I would do a big mea culpa and try to get some money off the I fooled the world meme, you know. So I think it's
gotta be worth $2-3
Yeah.
million on Netflix. I mean, right? I totally agree with you. That's a great point.
I honestly, I stake my reputation on this being real. I really would. All the signs, all the evidence is converging it being real. And I'm interested to see where this goes from here. You say you're making a documentary about this. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, I can. Well, let me give you one last thing because this
is
just
like remember, something I've got to ask you. I just remembered something else as well.
This is the gift that. Go ahead. You can ask me. Go ahead.
You something I just made a note of earlier on, and we sort of went off the topic a bit, but DNI 27. You said you'd explain.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Thank you. I'm watching it, Linda. This is the bombshell. And Andrew is going to know what I'm talking about. Only him. I see a Ronald Reagan document when he was allegedly briefed about extraterrestrials. On top is just the number 27, and I look at my wife and I'm like, wait a minute, that's on the Victor film. So I'm like, this is on the Victor film. So I call a military person, an intelligence military person that won't go on the record, doesn't know a lot about the alien phenomenon, whatnot. I asked him, I said, what is 27? I've seen it on top of a briefing document. He goes, it's an umbrella term. I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, 27 is Yankee White. I'm like, what the hell is Yankee White? He said, John, when you see 27 on any government document or any government documentation, film, whatever, that means that is being generated for somebody who has direct access to the President of the United States. Now, one person, we can't figure out who it is. Andrew and I think we know it is. And the Vice Admiral, the Naval Vice Admiral, I know for a fact, has been in the Oval Office as a briefing liaison, like you're helping you debrief the president. So here we go. I found out the bombshell that this 27 means that someone in that room communicated directly to the President of the United States at that time, which was first President George H. Bush.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, I that made me fall off the chair. And then it was only a week ago, the final wrap up, David Oates does reverse speech, and he has called into question Lazar, David Wilcox, Richard Hoagland of the Mars, a couple of other UFO conspiracy people. He is kind of called into question what they're saying. And I find on the YouTube, Victor, Area 51 alien interview, reverse speech. And I'm like, oh, this is it. This is it. All of my research is going to go down the drain because we're going to hear Victor say puppet or this is fake or something like that. I put on the YouTube video. He does the analyst, the reverse speech of Victor, and it says from the Pleiades, in my mind, meaning thought projection, and something about the alien's comfort. And then David Oates says on super title on the video, in my expert opinion of 20 years of reverse speech, Victor was completely truthful in his testimony.
Wow. Well, just to explain to the listeners, David Oates' theory is that people subconsciously backmask messages into their own speech as they're speaking from their subconscious mind. In the same way that like some rock stars put backmask material on their songs, like Led Zeppelin was famous for this.
And he's got 20 years of data. I had a college professor that believed in this. I believe in it. And again, so that was it. The investigation was all but over last week.
That's
when I just can't find anyone to debunk this for me.
I never thought 27 was like, because I assumed it was like a file number, maybe there was a DNI 28, 29, 26, 25. I thought it was just a file number for the but it's not. It's actually the 27.
27, a designation meaning if you don't have Yankee White security clearance, don't watch this video.
It's sometimes some people say that the number 27 has. You see, there's some weird coincidences with the number 27. For example, a lot of rock stars die at the age of 27. Amy Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix. The list goes on.
If Burlington is watching this, he is laughing right now.
He
Not
will
at
be.
you, but because he knows who was in that room that directly communicated to the president. And I'm never going there. I don't think I'm ever going to go there. because it's too hot.
Actually,
just,
he did share
it's not
some.
worth it.
Yeah, he shared some information. I think he might have. I won't say it because I think it was meant to be private. But he did name
Please
someone,
don't.
and it is a very
don't.
it's a very it is a very prominent figure in the defense establishment at that time. I won't name him because I think Andrew doesn't
I
want me
appreciate
to.
that. No,
all right.
No, thank you.
But it is that person. I mean, he claims that he can recognize the person from the image, and if it is that person, that's very and this is a person that would be 27, I think.
And I'm going to try and have a sketch artist take the very, we can see the shine on the forehead, the nose, and the lips. They're very prominent. They're very thick lips, and so I'm going to see if I can. And I also paid another person to try and even, highlight it some more. We can't. And I'm going to try and pay a forensic sketch artist to maybe can we get an outline of the face, but that's somewhere down the road. So, and that's the end of the investigation. So that's, people can take whatever I found in 5 years and take it to and disseminate it themselves. And I just want everyone to know that I really worked my ass off on this investigation, and I did the best I could.
Well, you certainly have, John. Yeah, and I mean, you've really been working hard since we last spoke, and it was only like 2 years ago. So, so how's the documentary coming along?
Well, the documentary, to make, I have about 30 hours in the can, but to make a documentary, I am signed with a production company, which is why I can't say the names right now. And I've been with them for a year, and it's, they're doing other projects. So they're working on what's called the sizzle reel right now, which is a highlight reel to show what the show is about, to sell this to Netflix or Hulu. And again, I apologize to people. This has been going on I signed my production deal in March of last year. This is how long this has been going on. But it's the glacial speed of Hollywood. Sean Morton tells me just to be patient. And I am just telling you face to face that if this doesn't maturize in the next couple of months, I'm just going to be forced to just sit down in a nice studio, tell the whole story like I did now, add in some other interviews and B footage and photos and documents. And I've already got another studio that's willing to put it out on like the Pluto channel or Amazon. And that's, if I'm forced to do that, that's what I'm going to do. So that is what and I am with the group called INE Entertainment out of California, and they're doing the best they can. But it's been a year. Hopefully we can get the ball rolling.
But you're right about the Hollywood and its glacial speed, how things get stuck in development hell. I mean, I'm always explaining this to people because I'm close to the production team of Capel Green, which is another ufological documentary, and it's been in production now for like almost a decade, I think.
Okay, people, are you listening to Ben?
Okay. Yeah, it's been like
thank you.
I think it's 8 years now. I think, and
this is not going to be 8 years, but
no, but
thank you for backing me up.
Yeah, sorry, but everyone keeps saying, well, when's this going to appear, Ben? A lot of people have given up and they think it's been cancelled. It hasn't been cancelled.
No,
it's an active project.
Canceled.
I know it is. These things just take time. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yep.
But
and again, I'm telling people by December 31st, I will either be on Hulu or Netflix, or I will be in a studio, a very good production, and tell the whole story and make it a very good produced piece with again B-roll and footage and other interviews, and tell the names of the people that are on the list. But that's gonna be anticlimactic because again, we've never heard of these people.
I know, yeah.
So, but it's gonna be interesting. Just everyone, just please bear with me. I used to hate guys like me that I felt were stringing me along. I'm not stringing you along. I told you the whole story except for names, and we'll do a deep dive, whether it's a documentary or my own documentary in a studio. I promise you, I will get something out. Excellent. That is my word, and I hold to my word.
Well, I'm definitely. I'll keep watching this space, as the saying goes, and I hope you'll keep me posted about what's going on.
Will.
You know, if listeners want to know more, could you tell me a website or anything like that you have?
I'm a little like Andrew. I'm off the grid too, and so I just want to tell people, if you have any credible information, whether real or fake or hoax or even anything militarily that you think would be interesting or pertinent to our investigation, please just email me. I'm very good at returning emails almost instantaneously. My email is Jon, Jon, without the H. My middle name, Alan, Alan. My last name, Stewart, Stewart, at AOL.com. Jon Allen Stewart at AOL.com. Just email me and I'll get back to you.
If listeners want to know, I mean, there'll be a link in the show notes where you can
Yeah.
email Jon if you want. And
Thank you.
I want
Thank you.
to say thanks, Jon. It's really appreciate you being on. It's Jon
Thank you,
Stewart.
Ben.
You're welcome. It's Jon Stewart on the Herpanmo Show on Herpanmo Radio.
So that was Jon Stewart, one of the principal researchers into the alien interview, this new video, which is like the alien autopsy, but not like it. And I think it's a far more impressive piece of evidence. I think it's far more likely to be true. In fact, I'm pretty certain the alien autopsy is not. Sorry, Colin, but I don't agree with you on this. I mean, I know there are certain issues, Kit Green and stuff like that, which indicates there's at least something like it out there. But, you know, I'm not convinced by what you said about it. The alien interview is different, though. In the alien interview, everything that's wrong with the alien autopsy is right with this. The evidence is converging on the alien interview being real, I think. I'm pretty certain it's real. And obviously, 100% proof is not possible. It may never be possible, at least in the pre-disclosure world. But that's where I think the evidence is leading us. So I'm going to tentatively conclude, yes, it is real. What could be discovered next? I don't know. I know that certain people have their nose to the ground on this. Jon Stewart, of course, I've just interviewed. Andrew Burlington. Several other people are now getting on board as well. I do hope that we can find more information soon. I'm very interested to hear any updates, any updates at all that Jon can give me or Andrew can give me. And if necessary, I'll make another video about this particular subject because I think it is important, it's fascinating, and it's very, very interesting. Fascinating and interesting are kind of synonyms, so forget important and fascinating, shall we just say that. Okay, guys, there'll be another video. Won't be a few days, actually. I'm going to be away over Easter. I probably won't film anything because it's really a kind of social. It's a social gathering I'm going to, just old friends from the old Davidite forum. So I'm looking forward to that. People I've known for years. I'll be back next week on Easter Monday, and then, I might be doing the gas banner on Sunday night. I'm not sure exactly when I'm coming back from this event. It may be on the Sunday, in which case I will do the gas banner on Herpanmo Radio on Sunday evening. If I don't, it'll be next week, and I'll be back on Monday, in which case I don't know exactly what video I'll make, but I do have more videos in the pipeline coming very soon. So thanks very much to Jon Stewart for that really interesting interview. Thank you very much to Andrew Burlington for his research as well, and for really pioneering the drive forward to get this alien interview piece of evidence the profile it deserves. And thank you, Herpanmo TV viewers, for watching yet again. Hospital Porters, it worked that time. Yay! Hospital Porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order.